Hello everybody and welcome to another Boxtail Scoop.
Boxtail Scoop!
Boxtail Scoop.
I'm going for it, I'm leaning into it.
100% behind it.
It's like with the Gully vlog thing, you've got
Okay.
to really go for it.
Commit.
Yeah, exactly, commit.
Welcome to another Boxtail Scoop. This week we are going to talk a little bit about the writing that we did for Hansel and Gretel, because like we said last week, we've had a little bit of time off this week, so we just thought rather than obviously show you puppets that we haven't made any progress on, we would talk about the writing of the script. This script, I suppose, was a little bit different maybe to some of the other things that we've written before. It is a story that we've already read and dealt with to some degree in Little Grim Tales. We use Hansel and Gretel in that show. If you've seen it, you'll know we do it as a kind of rap. So it's very short, really. We just, we've truncated it into a little kind of minute and a half rap. This time, obviously, we need to create a full-length play, but obviously it's for 3-year-olds upwards. So it needs to be, we've gone for kind of 50 to 55 minutes. And for that age group, there are certain things you need to bear in mind. One of them is that the Grimm's Tales are very gory, actually, and quite nasty. And so there is certain elements to the story that we just thought were not quite appropriate for the audience.
I mean, it's funny, actually, that they're always thought of as children's stories,
yeah.
Because when you read Hansel and Gretel, obviously, and that is by no means the goriest of them,
no.
But people get killed. People, there's horrible bits and pieces going on all over the place. Really not appropriate for 3 and up.
I mean, obviously, I'm sure there are plenty of companies who have kept the kind of witch being thrown into the oven at the end as more of a joke and made it. But we just, for what we wanted to do, we decided that wasn't right for us. But we'll talk about that a little bit more later. So we needed to bear in mind our audience. We also needed to bear in mind the fact that the show is very much going to be a Christmas show. So we've never made a Christmas specific show before. We wanted to really go for it with Christmas and proper Christmassy it up, didn't we?
Which is what I would want, from a Christmas show.
So we've set it very much at Christmas. Is it set on Christmas morning? I can't remember. I feel like we start at Christmas
Eve or Christmas morning.
I think we start on Christmas morning,
yeah.
And we meet our woodland narrators, who are the puppets that we've been making, and they are reminiscing about what happened last Christmas, and they're explaining how they helped these 2 children, Hansel and Gretel, how they helped them escape from the witch that they thought was going to cook them. So we've very, very much set it at Christmas. We also wanted to give it a moral, some kind of little message to come away with at the end.
Yeah, just in a very gentle way, just for it to have a kind of positive, especially, not only because it's for the audience that it is, who are very impressionable, obviously, for a younger audience, but also because it's a Christmas show. You want people to come away with
a warm,
exactly, a positive
Christmassy
feeling from it, yeah.
It's been a different process with this show to other ones where, for example, with the Dickens, we've lifted the dialogue from the book like we would normally do with an adaptation and tried to stick as closely to the original as we can. This is not that. We have looked at the story and it's much more inspired by, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think with anything like that, they are so short anyway.
Yes, you'd have to expand.
Yeah, you've got to build around it to make it into...
Unless you do a minute and a half rap like in Little Grim Tales.
Unless you do that, yeah.
So one of the first problems we wanted to deal with, which you're going to talk about a little bit, is the issue that there's a wicked stepmother.
Yeah, and it's funny, you hear that trope all the time, and I thought, we both agreed when we were writing it, that for example, I've got 2, both my parents are remarried, so I've got 2 step-parents. They don't take me to pantomimes anymore, but nonetheless, I thought if you were in that position and you have to take your kids out to these shows, or you have to read them these stories all the time, and you're constantly kind of having your position undermined, or having this idea of the evil step-parent being reinforced, you must get pretty tired of that, pretty fed up of that. So we decided very early on that we didn't want to do that we wanted to find a way to, stick with the kind of the line of the story that the stepmother sends them off, or the
parent, sends them off
into the woods, but that it wasn't because she was mean, and it wasn't because she was wicked.
Stepmother who just wanted the father for herself, which is technically what it is. She thinks the children are using up all their money.
So in fact, she is on her own. She's a single parent, in fact, in our version. That's not a particularly political statement. I mean, that's actually more to do with...
It's practical. We have three members of the cast. Two of them one needs to be Hansel, one needs to be Gretel.
Yeah.
So we thought we'd have a parent, therefore.
But again, you know, if there are children in the audience for whom that's the case, and it seems normal because it's, you know, they're
Then
seeing it on stage,
so much
that's
the
great.
better.
And she's actually bewitched, so she's put under a spell. She's trying to get money together for them to have a good Christmas, and while that happens, a spell floats in through the window and bewitches her, and that's why she ends up sending them off into the woods. Once she recovers from the spell, she then regrets it, of course.
Yes, and is very pleased to see Hansel and Gretel returning. So I'm really glad we've done that. Actually, when we read it back through, it just, there are certain things, I suppose, when you're dealing with a story that's so old that do just feel outdated, and that I feel like, you know, it is worth trying to deal with those. We haven't steered that far. We just had to add a little element to the story in order to make that work.
Yeah. And then similarly with the witch, again, you know, it's a common trope, but we wanted to do something a little bit more positive with it. Not necessarily because I think witches get a bad reputation, not quite the same thing that we're dealing with there, but nevertheless, like we were saying, it's a Christmas show. You want people to come away with a positive feeling for the whole thing. So we have tweaked the character of the witch somewhat, so she's a little bit misunderstood. She maybe doesn't express herself as well as she might. You know, perhaps she could get people to come and visit her in a more friendly way.
Rather than bewitching their parent, nonetheless.
Yeah. But she doesn't certainly have any plans to eat anyone. It's just a big misunderstanding. And in the end, she comes and joins them all for Christmas dinner. So, lovely happy ending for everyone.
Yeah. I mean, that was also to combat the idea of the fact that obviously the witch gets burnt in the oven, which we thought was possibly not suitable.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to overlook that in a Christmas show, isn't it? It doesn't seem like the right message.
It doesn't seem very fair.
Yeah.
So, yes.
What was I going to say then as well? I think the other important thing is that I think we learnt this with the previous family shows that we've done. You want to have that sort of sense of adventure. And actually it's nice to have a little bit of jeopardy.
Yes.
Even though they're very young, you know, we found that from the very beginning when we did Alice in Wonderland. It's nice to have just a little moment where it's okay for them to be a little bit scared or to kind of snuggle up to mum or dad or whoever they're with. And also it's the repetition of the journey. Being able to recognise and identify with the idea that, oh, they're going back into the forest, this animal helped them get out last time and they're leaving a little trail again. There's something enjoyable about that. You know,
sort of sequences, isn't it, that then get repeated.
And that you can join in with then as well.
Yes, and we've made sure that there's audience participation and that we're putting some songs in as well for the kids. And there'll be a few kind of lessons to learn about why the forest isn't actually scary at night, but that there's great things, great nature that you will see if you go and, not that we're recommending they go in the forest on their own at night.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to it because it should be really good fun. You know, we've been able to be quite silly with the script as well, which is lovely for a show like this. And I think that's the one other important thing to say is that whenever we've made any family shows, we very much mean it's a family show.
Yes.
We're not making a show that's aimed at 3-year-olds. We're making a show that's appropriate for them to watch, but
that
also
all the
for
family.
their whole
we
family
very
to
much
enjoy.
thought of the adults.
Yeah.
Because
You want to have something in there that the adults can laugh at too.
So we make a show that we feel like if we were sat in the audience watching it, that we would enjoy it. We would find it funny, and we would enjoy the journey. And there would be some silly little jokes that probably go over the kids' heads, but that the adults can enjoy. So there's some of that, something for everyone. We hope.
So hopefully you find that interesting, and we should be back next time with. I mean, these days, who knows? But hopefully more making. Thanks for watching.